So yesterday was amazing. I woke up and got almost a full night's sleep and went for a walk, maybe a mile and a half walk in the morning. It was amazing. And I just got to see and talk to so many incredible people. Had another traditional Indian breakfast with the group. And then we had worship service and I got to hear Dr. Sanjay Lucas speak, and he did an incredible job. And yesterday was a big day when we went to the medical college and the hospital. While I was waiting for my ride, I had a young man come up to me and tell me a story of growing up in a Hindu background, and his best friend, and he grew up with his brother, had gone away just for 3 months, and he went to 3 months of school here on campus and came back, and he could tell within just 3 months how transformed his life was. And so he said, "Ben, I have to go figure out what that school is." And through a series of events, ultimately ended up getting a job here, ended up coming to school here and completely changing his life as well. And has been working here since 2010. What an incredible man. And after that, I got to tour the hospital that they have here, which is incredible. They have a surgery clinic, intensive care unit, ophthalmology, basically every service in a 4-story, 100-bed hospital here. So we got in the car and drove and drove and drove and drove through the Indian traffic and went through this incredible open air marketplace that I'd love to get out and walk around in. And then ultimately ended up at this very large 100-acre campus in the middle of town for a very old and prestigious medical college, which is kind of unique because I have no medical background, but they had invited me to come and speak and share the capacity model. So we get there, and you can tell that a couple of the people who had arranged it, there was a group of about 10 men that greeted us. A couple of them had arranged it. They were very excited to have us there, and they ushered me into the dean's office. The dean had been there since 1978, so he'd been around a while. And you could tell that he was not impressed very easily, and he spoke good English. I took every bit of concentration I had to understand what he was saying, but he invited me in. I sat down at his desk, and it was me and him, and there was about 10 more people behind and around us. And so we just started talking, and it was pretty slow at first. He was sharing his story about medicine at the college, and then his views on modern medicine and Eastern medicine and their philosophy at the hospital, which I found fascinating. It was very, very difficult to hang on, especially with my limited medical understanding, but I caught a lot of it, and we had some agreement on that. He was sharing with me how he believes the body was made to heal itself, and so the less intervention, the better, which I totally agree with. Then I asked him about his family, and you could see him light up, and he had one son who was very, very proud of, and showed me pictures, who's just finishing up his PhD in space engineering in Berlin and is married there. And by the end of that, he invited me anytime I was in Berlin that his son would take care of me and show me around. And after about 30 minutes of somewhat awkward but progressively better conversation, I felt like we had really connected, and he was becoming more animated and showed pictures of each other's family. And then it was time to go to the classroom, and I'm going to share some pictures, but they had us in front in this very nice table setting at the head table with all the students, probably 70 or 80 so students in this classroom, all medical students. And they had a beautiful ceremony where they presented this beautiful giant bouquet of flower display and a plaque to me for presenting. They presented it to the dean of the students as well as me. What I would later find out is that all of the department heads of surgery, orthopedics, and pediatrics were sitting in the front row in there. And I'm glad I didn't know that right away, because it was just nice to engage with everybody like they were just students. And we went through a ceremony where they had one of their gods, Hindu gods, that they had a poster of, and they had candles, and they wanted us to light candles in front of that. And then they put shawls over us. So it was a very, very cultural experience, to say the least, and a lot of hospitality. So they invited me to speak, which is incredible. Had to go a little bit slower. I hope they understood what I said. We got to have some laughs and shared with them the capacity model and how to manage the stress in their life, how to build their best life, how to build the pillars of their life through education, through habits, and through relationships. And handed out about 10 books to people who had learned different things throughout it, which was always fun engagement. It was interesting. I found out afterwards that people who answered a lot of the questions were the heads of the departments. And I got to watch the dean and all the different heads. They were glued to the conversation. And so it was very cool. So after I was done, I had about a 50-minute presentation, sat down, and the dean came up and gave a summary of my talk, which was phenomenal. And as he was speaking, he had tears in his eyes. And afterwards, we had another amazing lunch at a beautiful hotel in town, and then came back. I got some pictures of that and videos of that, but it was a buffet style. Honestly, I liked the first one better. If you're ever in Nagpur, I'd go to Ashoka first. But it was delicious. Had a beautiful kiwi dessert that tasted amazing. Came back and rested because that was quite an experience, and then went to the evening services for the youth conference and had an interesting experience. Again, there's 2,000 people in this conference hall, and I'm up in the front row, and they have these giant swamp coolers to make it cool in there, and they're up in the front, and they have to be on full blast so they can kind of be cooling down the whole place, and I'm about 6 feet away from them. So it feels kind of like I'm in a hurricane the whole time. And then we had Dr. P.D. Joseph share, and they interpret it. So he says something and they interpret it. The Indian style of preaching is very fiery, very loud, very fast. And I think he was speaking in English, but he would switch between English and Hindi, and his English was Indian English that I could not understand. So I sat there for about an hour and a half, not really having a clue what was being said. And it was so loud that the lady sitting next to me showed me her Apple Watch. And the Apple Watch had alerted her that the decibel level was far above 90 decibels and that they should put on hearing protection to avoid having hearing damage. It was an incredible event though. And many, many, many young Indians came forward and gave their life to Christ, and saw a couple more demons exorcised, which was pretty intense. And after the event, I had dozens of young men and women come up and ask me to pray for them, and then dozens and dozens more wanted to take photos. So I probably took about 100 photos, which was unique because at times there were people on the floor having demons exorcised from them while they wanted to take photos with me and have me smile. It was something that I could say probably only in India. So it was an amazing experience. Went downstairs from that, had some dinner, and then came back to my room to prepare some of my teachings for Monday and Tuesday. I get to speak and share at the Theological Seminary for the Masters of Divinity students. So prepared some of that and went to bed and got up. And so I'm ready to experience today. Today is a very cool day as well. So I'm excited to share what happens today. Thanks for joining.